America, New York City, Manhattan, Clinton District. Ah, my eyes! A scream suddenly came from the alley. Bai Jing covered his eyes and rubbed them for a long time. Suddenly, he felt that nothing was wrong. No! Bai Jing opened his eyes again, and the world in front of him was still hundreds of times brighter than before. It was as if the world he saw before was in night mode, but now, it was in super bright day mode. In the past, his eyes would definitely not be able to bear this kind of brightness, but now he found that facing the light comparable to looking directly at the sun, his eyes did not feel anything. His brain did not feel anything either, but instead processed the information that was 10,000 times clearer than before very smoothly. Why did this change suddenly happen? Bai Jing simply took off his glasses. The world in front of him was blurry for a moment, and then it immediately became clear again. My myopia has also healed? Bai Jing blinked. Isn't it possible that I am living in a dream? He looked around. This was a dark alley with 5 or 6-story apartment buildings on both sides. The building materials were rare dark red bricks. Garbage was randomly placed and sewage was flowing. A fat black wildcat came out of the garbage dump, looked at him, turned around and ran away with something in its mouth. Various pipes and stairs are exposed outside, and the sound of dripping water, voices outside, police cars, and gunshots are intertwined, making the whole world seem particularly real and vivid. Wait, who am I and where am I? Bai Jing was confused. Am I not greeting the family of the netizen? September 15th may be a day worth remembering in history, when the chip supply of Seoul Waste Company was cut off by the United States. At this time, Apple was holding a press conference, and many people in Bai Jing's live broadcast room were advertising. As an angry young man, Bai Jing couldn't stand this, so he stopped playing games and went online with them, and the rant lasted from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m., and in a daze, he didn't know how he came to such an alley. His eyes were almost blinded by the light. Scratching his head, he wondered if he had fallen asleep while walking and then sleepwalked to a place he didn't recognize. Let's go out and ask. Just as Bai Jing was about to leave, he saw 3 fat nicks turning in from the street with cigarettes in their mouths at the entrance of the alley. Well, this is not a discriminatory word. The black race is divided into the Negro race, so it's okay to abbreviate it as Nick. Then the 2 sides saw each other. Hey, Chink! The tall black man in the lead had his eyes light up. Hand over the money you have. Ha! Bai Jing was curious at first. Are there black people in my small county? Then he was curious. Are these people filming a video? Why are they all in slow motion? They walked and talked very slowly, as if they were driving at 0.5 times the speed. As for what they said, Bai Jing was shocked. You want to rob? Give me the money. Hearing Chinese, the black man simply switched languages and spoke very fluently. Fuck! Bai Jing was speechless. Brother, it's 2020. Who still carries cash on them? The black man didn't understand and said again, Give me the money. Please be reasonable. I won't transfer the money. He was about to take out his cell phone from his pocket. He was afraid that his head would be cut and blood would flow. How could he go out without his cell phone? Stop! Seeing that Bai Jing's hand was about to touch his waist, the black man immediately yelled, Stop it! English, huh? Bai Jing frowned, took his hand away, and looked around again. I don't know why his eyesight and hearing are surprisingly good now, but I really didn't see any camera or selfie device. Are these 3 people shooting a video? Speaking of which, this is not how you shoot a video. They just need to shout I love Shogwa to the camera, right? Why is it so complicated? But how can a normal person speak and act in slow motion? Bai Jing frowned, but the other black man simply pulled out a silver revolver from his clothes. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Just kill him and search him. The black man said, pointing the gun at Bai Jing. Ha! Bai Jing suddenly felt a breath of death enveloping him. Under the supervision, the metallic light flashing on the silver revolver made Bai Jing extremely sure that this was a real gun. Bam! The black man pulled the trigger. Bai Jing suddenly turned sideways, and the bullet passed by. He was not a master of physical skills or martial arts, but facing a person whose speed was slowed down by half, he could still make this prediction. After all, Bai Jing was also the 1,000-point king of the canyon, and his reaction speed was not bad at all. Bam! The bullet hit the trash can behind him. Bai Jing turned his head and took a look. He was sure that the metal trash can with a thickness of 0.5 millimeters was penetrated. The gun was a real gun, and the bullet was a real bullet. These people really wanted to kill me. With his life hanging by a thread, Bai Jing's mood suddenly calmed down. What should I do when facing a three-man double team? First, look at the position of teammates. Second, look at your own skills. And third, look at the enemy's skills. Hide when you can, and use your own skills when necessary. There is no use in being impatient. You must have clear ideas and accurate operations to escape or kill. The three black men are fat and strong, but they may just be puffy. But Bai Jing has been playing games for many years and has not exercised much, which will only make him look weaker. It was impossible to win by physical skills. The only chance of winning was the silver revolver. Bai Jing rushed forward. It seemed like a long time, but in reality it was only a blink of an eye. The black man was still shocked that his bullet was dodged, and Bai Jing had already rushed forward. The distance between the two sides was about 6 meters. It only took 1 second for an average adult to sprint 6 meters. However, from the black man's perspective, the skinny yellow man in front of him actually came to him in the blink of an eye. He raised his thumb and fired 2 shots, but the boy in front of him dodged all the shots like a loach, leaning his head and ducking his head. The next second, he felt a pain in his hand and subconsciously loosened it. When he came to his senses, the gun was already in the boy's hand. It turns out that it's not you who have slowed down, but I who have gotten faster. Bai Jing was very excited at this time. With super strong vision and hearing, judging from his reaction just now, his brain's thinking ability and information processing ability are much stronger than before. In addition, seeing people is basically slow motion. Am I a Superman? Then can I easily become the first in the canyon and then go professional? Forgive Bai Jing for his poor background and playing games for several years. Apart from playing games, he really doesn't know what he is suitable for after having superpowers. With the gun in hand, Bai Jing's mentality became much more stable, and the black man in front of him was instantly paralyzed with fear. Suo, Xiao Kung Fu. A black man muttered. Xiao your mother's head. Bai Jing cursed and shouted, Raise your hands, hold your head and squat against the wall. The black man didn't understand what he said, but they understood the few gestures that Bai Jing made with the gun, and then squatted in the corner obediently. What should I do next? After controlling the 3 people, Bai Jing didn't know what to do. If he followed his previous style as a keyboard warrior on the internet, he would of course kill them cleanly. But when he really had a gun in his hand, he didn't have the courage. Call the police. Bai Jing finally remembered that he must call the police for this kind of thing. Illegal possession of a gun, robbery, attempted murder, multiple crimes. It's impossible to just write a letter of repentance and be done with it. He took out his Xiaowei Mate 40, and he immediately found that the phone had no signal. 110 is an emergency number. Even if the phone has no credit or is not unlocked, you can call it. But no signal, definitely not. How is it possible? Bai Jing looked at the 3 black men in front of him, and then listened to the noisy noises outside. He actually had a guess in his mind. Where in China is there a city with gunshots and police cars everywhere? How is it possible for someone to walk around the street with a gun? Not to mention that the pedestrians on the street outside all speak English. Bai Jing stood up and walked towards the street corner step by step. As he approached the street, he closed his eyes, then suddenly opened them. What came into view were shops with English signs all over the street, and people with hair of various colors, black, white, yellow, and brown, and skin of various colors. A newspaper floated past his eyes, and Bai Jing caught it casually and saw the name of the newspaper. Manhattan Daily, January 14, 2008. Bai Jing heard the black man behind him quietly running away, but he had no intention to think about it. Time travel, how could it be possible? Besides, why not travel to America? I have to find a way to go back. After all, in free America, shootings happen every day. Bai Jing doesn't want to be randomly killed one day. How unfair that would be. You can't go back to your original world for now. Even if you want to go back, no one here will help you. You can only go to Seal Country on the other side of the ocean and reveal your identity as a time traveler, with superpowers. Maybe the country can allocate resources to help you study the secrets of time travel. Oh, there is this superpower. Just as Bai Jing was about to take out his phone, he suddenly remembered that it was 2008. The Xiaomi Mate 40 in his hand is an absolute black technology. It can't be taken out casually. Fortunately, there are shops everywhere on the street, although most of them are restaurants. Is it a food street? Bai Jing walked on the street, looking around, and all kinds of English poured into his mind, and a little memory began to revive. He started learning English in the 3rd grade of elementary school, 3 years in junior high school, 3 years in high school, and 4 years in college. Although he had not used it for a long time and had basically forgotten it, the knowledge he had learned was recorded in his subconscious mind. It was just that most people would never have the chance to wake it up in their lifetime, but Bai Jing was different at this time. His brain seemed to have entered an overclock state, and all the things he had remembered and even the Oxford Dictionary that he had only flipped through began to emerge one by one. As he was walking, Bai Jing suddenly found that he could understand what people around him were saying. But these were all minor problems. Bai Jing came to a clothing store, stood in front of the fitting mirror at the door, and then looked at the figure in the mirror blankly. He was 1.86 meters tall and thin, with a pale face, messy hair, dark circles under his eyes, and a white t-shirt with Chinese regular script on it that said it is impossible to work as a part-time worker and loose sweatpants. He looks a bit handsome. This is me, no different from the me who was broadcasting live yesterday while lying in front of the table. The only difference is in my eyes. He is a typical Northern Han Chinese, with brown-black irises, but now, the irises of myself in the mirror are extremely deep black. It is so dark that the reflection of the world that should be reflected in my eyes is gone. Just like staring into the abyss, the silence even made Bai Jing feel a chill in his heart when he looked at himself. Just like a black hole. Bai Jing couldn't help but sigh, and suddenly he felt that he seemed to be right. The handsome face with the dark eyes was like a dragon with eyes, and the charm suddenly rose several levels. From being a little handsome, he became quite charming. He raised his hand and hooked it lightly, and the mirror in front of him shook slightly. As early as when I dodged the bullet just now, I found that there seemed to be a circle of things like a field around me. Bai Jing felt the range he could control, and picked up a ruler on the counter and measured it on the ground. 0.93 meters. A ball with a diameter of 0.93 meters, with my eyes as the center. I can control the gravitational repulsion within this range. Moreover, he focused all his attention on the ruler in front of him, and saw that the ruler in front of him was rapidly enlarged, and the 1 millimeter scale was magnified to seem like a meter wide. And this was far from the limit. Microscopic vision. As he thought, He felt his sight pass through the surface of the tape measure and enter the plastic particles that were less than 1 millimeter thick, and saw the plastic particles neatly arranged inside. Gravity can penetrate everything. In scientific theory, it can even travel to a higher dimensional world. So far, no material is immune to gravity. Bai Jing murmured, "My sight has the characteristics of gravity, so I can scan all matter." Gravitational detection. And the most basic one. What are the characteristics of a black hole? Of course, it devoured everything. Within the range of gravity, plastic particles turned into molecules, and then various chemical bonds directly collapsed under the strong gravity, turning into atomic form, and then disappeared into the plastic material of the measuring tape. Because the amount was too small, Bai Jing did not feel anything, but he could confirm that the tens of thousands of plastic particles were absorbed by his eyes. He was just using this ruler to do an experiment. In fact, the range he could absorb was extremely large, and it could absorb anything within the gravitational range. In other words, a ball with a diameter of 0.93 meters. So I know why I see other people in slow motion, because of the gravitational time dilation effect. Bai Jing suddenly realized. The so-called gravitational time dilation means that when a person is within the gravitational range of a large celestial body, time will pass faster. The greater the gravity, the faster the time. If there is a race living on the sun, because the gravity of the sun is much greater than that of the earth, then under the same sense of time, the people on the sun will see us earthlings and feel that we are running very fast. However, Bai Jing sees people outside at slow motion, but it is because he is covered by the gravity of the black hole in his eyes. The gravity of the earth is much greater than that of his eyes, which makes him the party in the weak gravitational zone, so his time will be much faster than that of the earthlings. At present, the time ratio is about 1 to 2. If this time ratio is maintained for a long time, then if an ordinary person lives for 50 years, Bai Jing will live for 100 years, and his lifespan will be half shorter than that of an ordinary person. But in fact, Bai Jing will not lose, because he has indeed lived for 100 years in his own timeline. But if you can live longer, who would be willing to live half less than others? I have to work hard to increase the range of gravity. As long as it reaches 2 meters, it will take time to adjust to the same level as the Earth. Bai Jing thought, this should not be a difficult thing. If a black hole wants to increase in size, it can just swallow it without thinking. As for improving vision and hearing, this is also simple, because the eyes are black holes, and gravity directly enhances the absorption of light and sound waves. As for why his brain got better, I don't know. But why did my eyes turn into black holes? Is it because the space and time were compressed when I traveled through time? Bai Jing didn't like to use his brain before, but now that he found that his brain was working well, he likes to use it. But after thinking for a long time, he still couldn't figure it out, so he simply stopped thinking about it. Putting down the ruler, Bai Jing turned around, ready to find an alley to be ambushed by Nick again. He went out to buy breakfast, but he didn't buy it and traveled through time, and now he's still hungry. But he can't scan the code to pay here, so Bai Jing can only ask kind people to help him with some money. Hey, why is your ruler so fragile? It breaks when you pull it. Behind him, an old lady with a waist of 4 feet suddenly yelled. Bai Jing raised his ears and looked around. Just as he was about to find a small alley, he felt 2 people holding his arms on the left and right. Brother, let's go. The strong man with a beard, dark skin and obvious Hispanic features on the left whispered in his ear, and licked his ear after finishing. You're done. Bai Jing felt goosebumps all over the floor. In an instant, gravity was projected out and swept over the man, swallowing up 13 of his blood. The man turned pale, and felt dizzy for a moment. He couldn't even stand and fell to his knees. Hey brother, what's wrong with you? Are you addicted? Another black man was shocked when he saw this scene and hurried to help him. Perhaps someone in the distance saw the accident and immediately came up. This time, he didn't waste any time, pulled up the white mirror and stuffed it directly into a van on the side of the road. Passers-by laughed and said nothing. In the van, the 2 rows of seats were tall and spacious, with 4 or 5 people already sitting on them. The one Bai Jing sat on was short and narrow, uncomfortable to sit on, and difficult to stand up. In addition, these 5 or 6 foreigners all had body odor, and there was a strong smell of heather in the car, which almost made Bai Jing faint. Sniff, sniff, swallow it all. The smell is basically chemical molecules, so it can be swallowed easily. Bai Jing then realized that his sense of smell is damn good. In addition, this swallowing seems to be able to follow his subjective will. For example, if he chooses to swallow the odor molecules but not the oxygen, he can still breathe normally. If you eat without knowing the reason, you might commit suicide. Is it him? The person in the van's driver's seat asked. That's him. There was a guy sitting in the passenger seat. Bai Jing turned his head and saw that it was one of the 3 people he had just let go. Who are you? Bai Jing asked. Why did you arrest me? What are you wasting your words on? A nigger stretched out his palm-leaf fan-sized hand and was about to hit Bai Jing, but when he was close to Bai Jing's cheek, he suddenly felt a strong force. Bam! His whole arm hit the car hard, and the door was even smashed out. I gave you face. Bai Jing was really screwed. I didn't do anything, but I was robbed first and then kidnapped. Do I look like I'm easy to bully? The black hole swallowed them, and the rubber rope tied to their hands disappeared. Seeing this, several people were panicked and rushed to suppress Bai Jing. Bai Jing just raised his hand and waved, and 6 people collapsed to the ground. 1/3 of the blood was sucked out. To be able to stand up is a real warrior. Superpowers. The Latino who was driving was shocked. Who are you? I should ask you first. Bai Jing put his hand on the man's shoulder. Who are you? What's your purpose in kidnapping me? The Latino only felt an inexplicable force swimming around in his body. He didn't know what happened to the 6 people in the car behind him, whether they were dead or fainted, but can you gamble on such things? We are from the Gray Squirrel Gang. My name is Ryan Dolan. It's him. He just came to report that he found a Xiao countryman who seemed to be carrying a very advanced mobile phone. The Latino pointed at the black guy next to him. The black guy was also confused. I just. Bai Jing slapped the black guy, and he was paralyzed. After absorbing the blood of 7 people, it must be 20 kilograms, and there is no improvement at all. His perception is extremely subtle, reaching the nanometer level, but he cannot feel the changes in his gravitational range at the nanometer scale. All I can say is that 20 kilograms of blood is just a drop in the ocean for the black hole eye. Oh! The Latino who was driving was a little panicked, but Bai Jing patted him on the shoulder. Take me to see your boss, I won't hurt you. Okay. Gangsters don't have any loyalty, so the Latino simply sold out his boss. Their base seemed to be very close. They drove for less than 5 minutes before they stopped again. Our boss is inside. Ryan Dolan got out of the car carefully, then ran to the back of the car and opened the door for Bai Jing. If it was an ordinary thug, he would probably still think about making meritorious service and receiving awards, but facing a superpower. Then just follow your heart. Besides, even if this superpower person fails, I can still say that I endured the humiliation. Bai Jing didn't have time to study Ryan's psychological process. He looked at the building in front of him curiously. It seemed to be a very ordinary building, but there was something else inside. He could hear some sounds outside, but with his hearing, he could only hear this much. If it were an ordinary person, he would probably not hear anything. Ryan brought Bai Jing into the building. After walking through a few ordinary corridors, he suddenly opened a door with the words "Fire Escape" written on it. Instantly, the sound waves, screams, and shouts were deafening and rushed straight into the sky. He quickly activated the swallowing function attached to his ear, filtering out most of the sound, and Bai Jing felt better. It seems that this function needs to be used frequently. The light can also swallow a part of it. Under normal circumstances, the eyesight doesn't need to be so good. There is probably a bar inside the door, a very shabby kind. Bai Jing was a little surprised to see the young and beautiful women on the stage showing off their bodies in various postures that Bai Jing had never seen before. There were a group of wretched men around them, who would occasionally pour wine on them or grab their thighs or something. Is this the rotten capitalism? I. Broadway is next to Hell's Kitchen. Many girls who have dreams of performing in operas go there to pursue their dreams. But the housing prices on Broadway are so expensive, and the cost of living is high, so they can only live here and make a living by selling their bodies. Ryan saw Bai Jing's straight eyes and suddenly realized that this superpower person seemed to have weaknesses. Like women. That's easy. Hell's Kitchen has women. Wait, you said this is Hell's Kitchen? Bai Jing heard a key word. Yeah. Ryan nodded. Actually, the official name should be Clinton District, but who cares? It seems there is such a saying. Bai Jing nodded. There is a place called Hell's Kitchen in reality, and it is not created by movies and TV series. He continued to look at the bright lights and nightlife around him. He could only look at them in this dim environment. If he turned on the supervision and scanned closely, all kinds of dirt and grease would be as obvious as the lice on Saul Thomas' head. He had just experienced this feeling in the car. It can only be said that if there was no black hole to swallow, he would have vomited it out. After passing the bar and coming to the backstage, the noise disappeared after passing through a door. This was a long corridor with gang members in suits standing in the corridor. Perhaps Ryan was of high status. When they saw Ryan bringing people in, they just nodded and let them pass without searching. Please. Ryan opened the door for Bai Jing. Inside the door was another vast world, with a large and clean floor decoration, bodyguards standing or walking around in groups of 3 or 2, and a bearded boss sitting in the middle of the hall, watching TV. No need to ask why he is the boss. Bai Jing doesn't think that except the boss, who else can smoke cigars and watch SpongeBob in a mafia organization? Boss! Ryan shouted in a low voice. Wait a minute. The boss waved his hand and continued watching TV. Our boss is Bronte Quinn, nicknamed Disaster Rat, good at close combat and pistol shooting. Ryan said. The one next to him is Calendar Quinn, the boss's younger brother, retired from the American Marine Corps. Close combat and shooting are first class. Bai Jing didn't look at the two people, but looked at the TV. He quite liked SpongeBob, but unfortunately his family was poor in his early years, and he was too busy studying to watch it. When he had money later, he was too busy playing games and working to watch it. Lying on the sofa and watching anime comfortably was also his dream. So he simply went forward, scanned it, and swallowed it spotlessly, without any bacteria, and then lay down. Bronte Quinn turned his head in astonishment. Who told you to sit down? Pa! Bai Jing slapped him on the shoulder. Say it again. Bai Jing didn't want to communicate peacefully with this kind of scum. He just rushed up to him. Bronte Quinn was shocked to feel his weakness. He was proficient in fighting and naturally knew his body well. In an instant, I determined that he was suffering from anemia and lack of oxygen due to massive blood loss. But why? I usually have a balanced diet and exercise regularly. Bai Jing picked up the remote control, turned off the TV, and then turned to look at Bronte Quinn. I heard that you are interested in my mobile phone. Bai Jing asked. Is it you? Bronte Quinn looked at Bai Jing in shock, then turned to look at Ryan, his eyes full of unwillingness. You betrayed me. You have a good eye. Bai Jing took out his phone and said, This is a smartphone released by Huawei in 2020. It has a 200-megapixel camera, 856G memory, 66W fast charging, and supports 3, 4, and 5G networks. It's a pity that you, America, have stopped supplying Huawei with chips, so it will no longer have a Mate 50. He took out his phone, unlocked it with his fingerprint, and took a selfie with Bronte Quinn showing her face. Looking at the clear image of herself on the phone, Bronte was shocked and terrified. Nowadays, a phone with 3 million pixels is already a very high configuration. Even digital cameras have very few with 3 million pixels. Huawei's front camera has 1200 W pixels. He knew the technological content of this phone, which made it even more terrifying. Why would he want to buy this phone? What kind of power does he belong to? Can I afford to offend him? Why did he tell me the data of his phone so clearly? You must know that there is a capital crime, which is knowing too much. You are always like this. You sell your unique things at a very high price, and you try desperately to get things you don't have. If you can't get them, you use dirty tricks. Bai Jing murmured, Now you are still the beacon country, but in another 10 years, everyone will recognize your true nature. You? What are you talking about? I don't understand. Bronte was about to cry. What does America's hooliganism have to do with me? If you hate America, then we are partners. I am against her, but I am also a cancer of America. I have never killed anyone before, but now it seems that I have to kill. So I will say something that makes me angry so that I can kill. Bai Jing said lightly. Ah! Bronte was stunned. He just watched Bai Jing take out a silver-white revolver from his arms and pointed it at his forehead. Calland, who was standing by, finally noticed something was wrong and fired. The whole process took no more than 0.7 seconds. Then, he saw the shiny bullet hovering next to the yellow man's temple, first turning into dust, and then disappearing silently into the air. Bam! Bai Jing finally fired. This was his first time killing someone, and he felt very uncomfortable. He used to be a person who would feel uncomfortable for a long time if he stepped on a snail while walking on the road. But can he not kill him? If he doesn't kill him, Bronte will never give up. Mate 40 represents a $1 trillion market. Not only will Bronte be tempted, but the CIA and FBI may also be involved. At that time, he can only run for his life, and his ability will be exposed along the way, which will attract more powerful pursuit. It's endless and inexhaustible. He has no money yet, so did he rob people along the way? Swallow the Mate 40 and destroy the body. It's also impossible. The Mate 40 is a good opportunity for China to overtake. In order to prevent Xiaoguo from suffering the same humiliation 12 years later, Bai Jing must do something. For example, bam! Bronte is dead. Turn the gun around and aim it at Calland. After firing once, he has a clear understanding of the recoil of this gun. The invisible gravity acts on the gun, helping to stabilize the gun. Calland tried to dodge in panic, but how could he dodge in this slow motion? Bam! A bullet hit his forehead, killing him with one shot. Calland died. There's an assassin. The bodyguards standing around had actually noticed something was wrong, but everything happened too fast. From Bai Jing holding the gun to shooting the two people, it took less than 1 second. Who could react to this? Some elites just took out their guns. And then they didn't shoot. Because the boss is dead, it is more important to capture the gunman alive and ask who is the mastermind behind the scenes. After all, it is important to avenge the previous boss if you want to be the boss. More importantly, The boy in front of him was holding a gun and pointing it at his head. From today on, the gray squirrel gang will be under my control. The boy's clear voice echoed in the hall. Why, are you crazy? Seeing Bai Jing holding a gun to his head, the gangsters were all stunned. You want to be the boss, so you point a gun at us and threaten us. Why are you pointing it at yourself? Why, we don't agree. Are you going to kill yourself? One person said, and the others immediately laughed. Yeah, kid, your bullets can turn. Another round of laughter. The air was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. You are such a sad boss. You died like this, and no one is sad. Bai Jing looked at Bronte lying dead next to him, and then looked at the people who were laughing wildly. He raised his hand and pulled the trigger. The revolver had 6 bullets in total. Nainik used 3 in the alley, and Bai Jing used 2 to kill Bronte and Calendar. This was the last shot. Bam! Gunpowder burst, and the bullet came out of the gun. The orange-yellow bullet, carrying an impact force of 300 milliseconds, rushed straight to Bai Jing's temple. At this time, Bai Jing just raised his left hand, quickly reached to his right temple, and then suddenly clamped it. An orange-yellow bullet suddenly appeared between his index finger and middle finger. In the hall, the laughter seemed to have been paused, and it all stopped in an instant. Bai Jing loosened his fingers, and the bullet fell on the gray-black marble floor with a clang, and it also struck everyone's heart. Every bodyguard looked at the bullet on the ground in shock, with hesitation and disbelief on their faces. That's a bullet. Even if it was just a revolver bullet, how could it be caught? In the world of martial arts, only speed can be defeated. Bai Jing looked at everyone calmly. From now on, I will have the final say in the Grey Rat game. Who agrees and who disagrees? The bodyguards looked at each other, and no one dared to say a word. I agree. Seeing this, Ryan hurriedly raised his hand. Our Grey Rat gang should have welcomed a more wise boss long ago. Oh, right. A bodyguard immediately put down his gun. From now on, you are our boss. That's right. Seeing this, the other bodyguards nodded quickly and silently put the gun pointed at Bai Jing back into their suits. Who has ever seen a hand catching a bullet? Of course, it could be fake, with special effects added, but no one dared to bet on this possibility. What if it wasn't? They are bodyguards, but not assassins. Very good. Bai Jing nodded. Deal with the bodies, call the main leaders to the meeting, and tell me the current situation of the Grey Rat gang and what their main business is. Yes. The bodyguards nodded, turned around and left, and 2 of them came over and carefully dragged away the bodies of the Quinn brothers. Bai Jing sat back on the sofa, cleaned the dust and mice on the sofa, and then turned on the TV again. SpongeBob SquarePants had ended, and the paternity test program was now on, with the host shouting that the child was not yours. Then the woman ran out with her face in her hands, leaving the men cheering on the stage. Boss, this is the information of the Grey Squirrel gang. A pair of round and white balls formed a ravine suddenly appeared in front of Bai Jing. Bai Jing raised his head and saw a girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, about 1.7 meters tall, and a perfect figure standing in front of him. Danny Roberts. The girl put down the documents in her arms and stretched out her hand again. Secretary of the Grey Squirrel gang. Oh. Bai Jing stretched out her hand and shook it gently twice. You go down first. Danny's face turned dark. I deliberately wore sexy clothes, sprayed perfume to cover up body odor, and put on powder to cover my pores. Are you blind? You actually ignore my charm. But she only dared to say it in her heart. After all, Bronte's body had just been carried away. Tisk! Bai Jing rolled his eyes. European and American women's skin was worse than his. How could he possibly like them? Wouldn't it be nice to find an Asian girl? My wife is Yui Aragaki. He lowered his head to look at the information. After reading only 2 pages, he felt that someone else was coming. Ryan pulled over a dark-skinned, deep-set eye sockets, a high-nose bridge, a messy beard, but overall he looked quite elegant, and he was wearing gold-rimmed glasses. Boss, this is our Gray Squirrel Gang's accountant. His name is Albahon. Ryan said. Hello, boss. Albahon spoke very good English, with almost no curry flavor. My name is Albahon. I graduated from the Department of Mathematics at Princeton University, and I'm 38 years old this year. Ha! Isn't Princeton University's Department of Mathematics the best in the world? How did you end up like this? Bai Jing was shocked. Princeton University is a must-visit place for all the top students, especially the Department of Mathematics, which is not far behind the best in the world. This kind of holy place is something that Bai Jing, who came from a second-tier university, could never have imagined in his previous life. Graduates of this school, even if they don't do mathematical research, will basically be hired by Wall Street with high salaries. Why did you end up working as an accountant in a gang? Albahon smiled awkwardly. He used to work on Wall Street, but ended up having sex with his boss's daughter. Ryan said from the side. That's nothing. Bai Jing said, you can marry his daughter. After all, he graduated from the Department of Mathematics at Princeton University, so being a son-in-law is not a loss of status at all. The boss has 4 daughters. Ryan gestured at the side. The youngest is only 14 years old. Bai Jing was speechless. You can't be Kwang. He is handsome, that's it. Albahon sighed. Boss, you are as handsome as me. You must often have such troubles. Bai Jing nodded awkwardly. Yes, that's right. Women always stick to me. I can't get rid of them. I'm at work. They can run to the office. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't afford the 300,000 yuan betrothal gift and the 1.5 million yuan house, Bai Jing would probably have gotten married. So the result is simple. Albahon not only had sex with the executive's 4 daughters, but also had sex with both meat and vegetables on weekdays. As a result, he was banned by Wall Street, and the executive even issued a bounty order. Although no one went to assassinate him. Fortunately, Hell's Kitchen doesn't care about this. After all, there are many prostitutes here, because most of them come to Broadway to pursue their dreams, and the quality is very high. Maybe if you meet a street prostitute, she can sing Nessun Dorma for you. Okay, this is not important. Bai Jing waved his hand. Tell me first, how much money does the Gray Squirrel Gang have now? The money that the Quinn brothers have stored through me should be about $2 million. I don't know whether they have their own private accounts. Albahon answered honestly. Ha! So little. Did you embezzle it? Bai Jing was shocked. No. Albahon shook his head quickly. I am an accountant with professional ethics. How could I do such a thing as embezzling my employer's property? But the Gray Squirrel Gang has been around for 5 or 6 years. How come they only have so little money? Bai Jing turned his head to look at Ryan, who seemed to have read this in the introduction. 6 years. We started in 2002. Ryan replied. But 80 of the gang's profits have to be handed over to Kingpin, leaving only 20. And we have to support so many people, so we can't save any money at all. Albahon said honestly. Ha! Bai Jing was stunned. Who did you just say? King Bing, the underground king of New York. Albahon replied. But you don't have to worry about him, boss. Just report to him and hand over the profits as usual. He won't have any influence on us. Wait. Bai Jing rubbed his temple and asked, do you know Tony Stark? That playboy? I would like to meet him, but he doesn't know me, said Albahon. Bai Jing was silent for a long time, and then asked, Osborne. Osborne Group, the fourth largest military-industrial group in the country. Albahang asked back. Bai Jing was silent for a long time, and then said, "Fuck. I thought I was the only one with superpowers, but you told me this is Marvel. I had already decided to buy a photolithography machine and leave." Bai Jing's original plan was very simple. He would take down a dam, collect funds to buy one or several photolithography machines and bring them back. He would then use his black hole ice scanning ability and nano-level finishing ability to manufacture and upgrade them himself. Although the American chip sanctions happened in 2020, China's pursuit of the chip industry began in the 1980s. If Bai Jing could bring back two, let alone an illegal immigrant, even if he was an alien, it shouldn't be a problem for him to obtain Chinese nationality. As for why he did this, America is full of discrimination against the yellow race. You can't get into politics, you can't get into the top management of a big company, and if you want to start a high-tech company, you will be suppressed and unable to grow and develop. Even if you want to marry a white woman or buy a house where white people live, you will face pressure from all sides. Not to mention that if your offspring want to go to a good school in the future, you have to score 100 points more than other ethnic groups. But if you go to China, with superpowers and photolithography machines, you can mobilize a huge amount of resources. Even if you want to build spaceships in the future, you will have your own share. The eye of a black hole grows by absorbing matter, but the mass of a black hole is too high. The Schwarzschild shield radius of the Earth is only 9 mm, which means that if the entire Earth is absorbed, the gravitational range of the black hole may only increase by 9 mm. Of course, there may be differences between the eye of a black hole and a real black hole, but in any case, to a black hole, the Earth is really an insignificant grain of dust. If you want to develop superpowers, you must enter the universe. According to his original plan, this should be a science fiction novel that uses the high-precision processing capabilities of black holes to lead China into the sea of stars. But now he suddenly realized that this is Marvel. Then the plan has to be changed. After all, for the Marvel world, chips are just low-end technology. There are also perfect human potions, Iron Man armor, nuclear fusion batteries, nano armor, vibranium, aerospace motherships, and destroyer armor. If he took the lithography machine back now, he would be missing out on the big picture. Although Tony's aesthetics are not very good, the Iron Man armor is indeed very handsome, especially the nano armor in the later period. In addition, black holes are big consumers of matter, and the entire Earth is not enough for them to eat. This is also the reason why he wants to enter the universe. But if the prediction is correct, will there be a hammer falling soon? This is made of neutron star material. If it is swallowed, it should be more effective than swallowing several Earths. The key is that the hammer is small and easy to swallow, while swallowing the Earth is slow and inefficient. After that, there are several infinity gems on the Earth, which are said to have infinite energy. Boss, everyone is here. The door opened, and then several bodyguards, 2 white and 1 brown, walked in. These are the 3 leaders of our Grey Squirrel gang. Ryan introduced them, Sono Bilson, Pick Schultz, and Hu Tianxiang. Sono Pierce was nearly 1.9 meters tall, muscular, and fierce. He looked like a bad guy, but after his eyes softened, he became normal again. Pick Schultz is only 1.7 meters tall, but he is big, fat, and has a greasy face. He doesn't look like a gangster, but a pig killer. As for Hu Tianxiang, he has brown skin, is 1.7 meters tall, wears a white shirt, is a little thin, has a simple smile and a simple look. He doesn't look like a gang leader, but a farm boy. Perhaps because they had heard the bodyguards talk about Bai Jing's deeds on the way, the 3 of them looked at Bai Jing with some curiosity. Except for Hu Tianxiang, the other 2 had provocative and questioning looks in their eyes. Bai Jing looked at Hu Tianxiang and asked, Chinese? And knights? Hu Tianxiang said. Oh. Bai Jing nodded, and the interest he had just raised disappeared. He said, "You should all know about my affairs. I want to be the boss of the Gray Squirrel Gang. Do you have any objections?" The three of them looked at each other, and Pig Schultz said in a muffled voice, "They all say you are powerful, but I don't believe it. Come on, hit me with a punch. If you can knock me down, I will obey you." Bai Jing stood up, walked to Pig, patted him on the shoulder, then turned to look at Ryan. "Buy me a Chinese meal, and also, there will be a meeting in an hour." Sono and Hu Tianxiang looked at Pig, who collapsed on the ground in astonishment. "You are serious? That's a bit exaggerated." Pig's face was pale and sweat was dripping. "Brother, come on, help me." The Gray Squirrel Gang was founded in 2002. In fact, as early as 1993, the Bronte brothers graduated from high school and stopped studying, so they started robbing on the streets with knives. Then, because of his courage and fighting spirit, he was noticed by the Haig family and recruited. Because of his handsome appearance, Bronte was noticed by the eldest daughter of the Haig family and became a son-in-law. Later, when the Haig family was fighting for territory, many people were killed by the Viper family, including his wife and father-in-law. Bronte took the remaining people to establish the current Squirrel family. After 6 years of hard work, the Gray Squirrel family finally became a small gang with 127 members, controlling 2 blocks of Hell's Kitchen. By the way, Hell's Kitchen has 24 streets numbered 35 to 58, and 4 avenues, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. The avenues run north-south, and the streets run east-west, dividing the entire Hell's Kitchen into 96 neatly arranged blocks like a chessboard. The Gray Squirrel family is located on 46th Street, between 12th Avenue and 10th Avenue. You may not know where it is. Go straight along this street until you reach 5th Avenue, and you will reach the world-famous New York Times Square. This location is great. Bai Jing doesn't care about America, and he has never been here, so of course he doesn't know much about Hell's Kitchen. But now with the map of New York City in front of him, looking at Hell's Kitchen again, Bai Jing found that this is indeed a place with great potential. The west side is adjacent to the Hudson River, with more than a dozen docks and convenient transportation. The east side is Manhattan's New York Times Square, which is not an exaggeration to say that it is the most prosperous place in the United States. This is simply the second wing of New York City. Such a good location, but the crime rate is always high due to gangs, immigrants, and complex ethnic issues, and the economy has never improved. In America, it is not easy to rise by taking the right path. But what about the underworld? Bai Jing took out an ink pen and circled the square Hell's Kitchen. First, you can make money. Second, you can control local power. And third, you are in New York and hidden behind the scenes, which is really convenient for you to participate in some things. He knocked on the table and was thinking when Ryan came running in. "Boss, I bought some Chinese food. I don't know what you like, so I bought General Tso's chicken, sweet and sour pork, maple tofu, steamed buns, spicy chicken, and dumplings." Ryan saw the map on the wall. Hell's Kitchen was circled, and the 90 blocks inside were painted in different colors. But he didn't care. He thought Bai Jing was just trying to understand the distribution of various forces in Hell's Kitchen. Until Bai Jing spoke. "How long do you think it will take to bring the entire Hell's Kitchen under control?" Bai Jing asked. Ryan was stunned, then immediately shook his head. "It's impossible, boss. There are so many forces in Hell's Kitchen, hundreds of gangs of all sizes, from various countries and races. It's difficult to deal with them alone. There is also the underworld King Jinping, who will not allow Hell's Kitchen to be unified. In addition, there are major financial groups and religions. In short, the situation in Hell's Kitchen is complicated, and it is impossible to unify. Bai Jing shook his head. Nothing is impossible. If there are difficulties, solve them. If there are opponents, kill them. As long as the mind does not sleep, there are always more solutions than difficulties. Disobey? That means we haven't killed enough. Besides, it's just a Hell's Kitchen. What threat can it pose to him? According to the timeline of the movie universe, most of the heroes in Hell's Kitchen are still minors. The only one who is a little strong is Daredevil, but he is a melee fighter. Why don't you try to get close to me? Besides, Daredevil is still a gentleman, and gentlemen are too easy to deal with. As for Kingpin, he is also a melee fighter. He is still immortal. No matter how big his muscles are, he is still immortal. As for White Mirror, who is going to snatch the Infinity Stones in the future and whose opponent is set as Ancient One and Thanos, Kingpin is really not a good opponent. Of course, we should despise the enemy strategically, but we should still pay attention to the enemy tactically. For example, White Mirror is always turning on the gravity field to avoid being destroyed by a sniper. Start from nearby. White Mirror pointed to 45th Street. The goal is to take these 4 blocks and expand our sphere of influence to 6. The Viper Gang occupies 45th Street. Their sphere of influence covers 6 blocks. We are no match for them. Ryan said, if we attack them, the rednecks on 47th Street will definitely take the opportunity to attack us. The entire Hell's Kitchen, with 24 streets, is home to hundreds of forces of all sizes. Any move can affect the entire body. As for why there are hundreds of them, rather than an exact number, it is because gangs fight every day, and many gangs are formed today and destroyed tomorrow. The information network of the underworld cannot be exposed, and everyone's information is updated very slowly. It is possible that the gang has been destroyed for half a year before people on the other street know about it. So the question is, why is the Gray Squirrel Gang so weak, but it can exist for so long? Because the location occupied by the Gray Squirrel Gang is very strange. Walking out of the window and looking out, there are more than a dozen various aircraft parked on Pier 86, on the vast Hudson River. There are fighter jets, reconnaissance aircraft, and a very famous British-French supersonic passenger aircraft Concorde. In order to pursue more efficient transportation methods and meet the needs of the US-Soviet Cold War and military competition, Britain and France jointly produced such a type of supersonic passenger aircraft, but because of the excessive noise and many accidents after entering service, the public no longer trusts this type of passenger aircraft. In 2003, the Concorde passenger aircraft announced its retirement, and one of them was placed here. Why are so many planes parked here? Because this is the USS Intrepid Aircraft Carrier Museum. A retired aircraft carrier is placed here for tourists to visit. However, the ship was taken for overhaul in 2006, so the aircraft carrier is not visible on the dock now, but some of the planes not on the aircraft carrier can still be seen. The Gray Squirrel Gang's sphere of influence is right next to Pier 86. They certainly can't fly these fighters to fight, and they can't afford to keep pilots, but they can choose to blow up the fighters. The Gray Squirrel Gang can't beat any gang, but they can use the method of blowing up the fighters to trigger the divine punishment. The American army will come down to earth, and then everyone will perish together. Relying on the threat of God's punishment, the Gray Squirrel Gang barely survived in the 46th district and opened several bars and casinos. The ways to make money include bars, casinos, selling silver, laundry detergent, human trafficking, helping people collect debts, etc. The Viper Gang next door is similar, and it is similar all over the United States. Ryan was still complaining, but Bai Jing ignored him and looked at the intelligence of his neighbors. Rednecks are a discriminatory name used by higher whites to refer to lower whites, similar to the Chinese term country bumpkin. Most of them come from Southern America, and most of them come from Texas, so rednecks are sometimes used to refer specifically to Texans. These people's ancestors made a living by farming, have a low level of education, and love to drink, so they generally have a bad temper and are difficult to communicate with. Also because of their education level, rednecks generally marry and have children early. And what is the result when women are illiterate and there is a man who loves to drink at home? The rate of domestic violence is extremely high. Or because of their lack of education, they cannot distinguish right from wrong. In the world of White Mirror, there is a smart man who uses simple and vivid metaphors, speeches without any complex sentences, and highly inflammatory slogans that actually have no connotations to win their favor, and finally successfully ascends to the pinnacle of power in America. As for the Viper Gang, its main members are from the South, Mexico. The Mexican gangs are more powerful than the country, and the competition is more intense. A group of failed gang members in the country sneaked into America and settled in Hell's Kitchen. Because of their connection with Mexico, the Viper Gang can get a large supply of laundry detergent. They are also the largest supplier of laundry detergent in Hell's Kitchen. Nearly 40% of the laundry detergent flows into Hell's Kitchen through their channels and then flows to the United States. From a safe perspective, it would be easier to get rid of the rednecks first, because if the Vipers were eliminated, the supply system of laundry detergent would inevitably be in trouble, and when the other gangs came, it would be hard to resist. But this is exactly what Bai Jing wanted. He is a superpower who has no rivals in Hell's Kitchen. How could he have the time to take down the gangs one by one? It would be better to gather all the people together, have a chat, and end the negotiations in one go. General Tso's chicken is the best Chinese dish in the minds of foreigners. In fact, few Chinese have ever eaten it. This is the first time for Bai Jing to see this dish. The dish is golden, crispy on the outside, and tender on the inside. A bite is sweet, crispy, tender, and a little spicy. The taste is actually quite good. Let's eat maple tofu again. Bai Jing is not from a wealthy family, and the maple tofu he eats in China is not authentic. Some places are leaking, some places are spicy, and the tofu is also of different kinds. As for what the authentic maple tofu tastes like, he doesn't know. Anyway, he thinks the taste of the one bought by Ryan is good and delicious. Is there a Chinese restaurant nearby? Bai Jing asked curiously. Yes, there is a Chinese restaurant called Yangguixian. Ryan imitated Chinese and said 3 Chinese characters. It's not far downstairs. The boss is a short and fat Chinese. As he said that, he subconsciously pulled his eyes to make a small gap, but suddenly remembered that his boss was Chinese, and suddenly he didn't know whether to pull or not, which was extremely embarrassing. You are Latino, a discriminated race, and you are discriminating against Chinese? Bai Jing laughed. I knew that Chinese people have a low status in America. It turns out that what they said is true. Ryan smiled awkwardly and said, No, boss, I have always respected you. Bai Jing had no intention of changing the status of Chinese people. After all, you came to America voluntarily, and no one forced you to do so, right? You can't blame anyone if you are discriminated against. On the contrary, it is funny that you are discriminated against in America and still try your best to show your superiority on domestic websites. Don't use your eyes, you can donate them to people in need. Bai Jing glanced at Ryan coldly. The dark eyes made Ryan feel cold in his heart, and he lowered his head quickly. In the conference room, the financial officer Albahong, the secret officer Danny Roberts, the leader Hu Tenxiong, Sono Bilson, Pick Schultz, and Ryan Dolan, who was in an unknown position, sat at the desk. Bai Jing threw a few A4 papers on the table and distributed them to several people, then said, From today on, the Gray Squirrel Gang will be renamed the Order Society. This is our symbol. A circular light emanated from the pyramid, and in the center of the triangle was a dark eye. The eye of order. Several people looked at each other in silence. Changing the boss meant changing the name and logo, which was normal. As for the president, you will be the one. Bai Jing looked at Pig Schultz, who was still lying on the table because of weakness. Eh? Pig was stunned. Why me? Because you are stupid. Bai Jing said calmly. You don't need to use your brain, just do whatever I say. Bai Jing would not say anything, of course, because Pig is white. Sono is also white, but his image is too good. Doesn't America like to use ugly, short and fat Asians in movies? Then he put a stupid, fat and brainless white man in the movie. And then he will be on Time magazine, news media and so on, disgusting America. This is called learning from the barbarians to defeat the barbarians. Pig nodded sensibly. Inside the company, we will set up 2 departments, the security department and the finance department. Except for Danny, Albaham, and Ryan, everyone else will be assigned to the combat department, with Sono as the director. Bai Jing continued. Hu Tianxiong will be the deputy director. Sono and Hu Tianxiong nodded in unison. Ryan, you will be the deputy director and help Pig handle some daily affairs. Bai Jing looked at Ryan again. Ryan nodded. Yes, boss. Besides, it's part of our business. Bai Jing continued. In the future, don't do illegal and criminal things like gambling, selling silver, laundry detergent, and human trafficking. Although Bai Jing wanted to harm the American empire, such petty actions were meaningless, low-level, and violated the bottom line of being a human being. Bai Jing disdained to do it. If we don't do anything, how can we make money? Ryan asked hurriedly. Security fee. Bai Jing said calmly. From now on, all companies and shopping malls operating on our territory will need to hand over 10% of their profits. In return, we guarantee that their stores will operate safely and orderly without any interruption. Oh, this. Ryan shook his head in shock. This won't work, boss. It's impossible. We are competing with the IRS for business. We will be wiped out. So we have to set up a security company and collect this part of the fee in a reasonable and legal way. Bai Jing said calmly. Which company doesn't need to hire security guards? Oh, this. Ryan was shocked. He always felt that this was wrong, but he couldn't tell why. I remember there is a blind lawyer named Matt Murdock in Hell's Kitchen. You can ask him for advice on how to collect this fee reasonably and legally. Bai Jing continued. If we can really get this much money, we won't have to touch laundry detergent anymore. Ryan's eyes began to light up as he thought about it. He knew how profitable it was to open a store. They could probably make millions a year in just 2 blocks. If they could take over the entire Hell's Kitchen, wouldn't it be easy to make hundreds of millions of dollars a year? The key is that there is no need to fight or kill, and there is no need to worry about the police coming to your door. What if the bosses don't want to pay? Ryan asked again. Find some homeless people to sit in front of their stores, and everything will be fine. Bai Jing laughed. There is no need to think about this kind of thing. There are too many examples to use. Anyway, stores have to pay taxes. Instead of paying taxes to the American government to build fighter jets and aircraft carriers, it is better for me to support poor mountainous areas. Of course, in order to make them feel that their money is worth it, we will also control all the homeless people and hooligans in the area and arrange them to be security guards in the future. Bai Jing continued. I heard that there is a retired Marine captain named Frank Custer who is very capable. It would be a good idea to ask him to be the instructor. Ryan blinked, feeling weird. If they did that, would this still be a game? Of course, that's not the goal right now. Bai Jing looked at Sono. Prepare some personnel to raid the Viper game tonight. Ryan exclaimed. No, boss, the rednecks. Have you forgotten what I just told you? The rednecks will come and attack us. Do you know what blitzkrieg is? Bai Jing smiled and said, if we take down the Viper again overnight, the battle will be over tomorrow. They won't have enough time to deploy troops, let alone attack us. Unlike Hong Kong gangs, America does not ban guns, so American gangs really have all kinds of weapons in their hands. Pistols and rifles are the basic configuration. Use EI, Chicago typewriter are also available. Bai Jing even saw a PTRD-41 anti-material sniper rifle in the arsenal. Where did this gun come from? When Bai Jing saw this sniper rifle, his blood rushed up all of a sudden. He actually didn't know much about sniper rifles, but long is good, big is beautiful. This sniper rifle is 2 meters long. The bullet is 11.4 厘米 long. It can penetrate a 25mm thick 90 vertical steel plate at a distance of 500 m. This is the gun left by the Haig family. Ryan introduced on the side, but there are very few bullets, only 17 rounds. This gun was designed by former Soviet military engineers to resist German tanks during World War II. Its performance was far superior to that of German products at the same time. Therefore, not only the Soviets like it, but the German army also likes this trophy. This type of gun was produced from 1941 and participated in the Battle of Moscow. It was discontinued in now for a while. It is unknown how many were produced in total, but in the former Soviet Union, there were about 40,000 guns of this type. However, after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, tanks, engineers, and aircraft carriers were sold everywhere by the prodigal sons behind them. The PTRD-41 was no exception. The Haig family got one from an unknown channel. It is also possible that the Haig family is the Russian mafia, but that was 6 years ago, and Ryan didn't know much. Bai Jing beckoned, and Inley easily picked up the gun and held it in his arms. He found that the gun was well maintained, without any rust or dirt, and the gun body and handle were as clean as new, as if someone was taking care of them. He looked up and around, and immediately saw a kid hiding in the crowd with a timid look in his eyes. Was he the one who had been maintaining the gun? Hey, why is it you? Where's your father? Ryan also saw the boy and turned his head to ask. He drank 2 months ago and passed out on the street, and was shot dead by a passing policeman. The boy hurriedly said, but I followed my father to maintain your guns 2 years ago. I'm very professional. The gun maintenance man had been dead for 2 months, and no one had noticed. Bai Jing blinked and waved. The child didn't dare to approach, and Ryan grabbed his clothes by the back of his neck. The boss called you, and you dared to hide. He pushed him over. Bai Jing looked her up and down. He felt that this child was not right from a distance. He approached and scanned it. Sure enough, this was not a boy, but a girl. He thought about it for a moment and knew why the girl had to dress up as a man. Living in New York was not easy. She looked like she was still a long way from adulthood and had no legitimate way to make a living. If she didn't want to sell herself, she could only dress up as a man and follow in her father's footsteps. Fortunately, the Gray Squirrel gang had a poor management level and no one had noticed for 2 months. But now Bai Jing found out. What's your name? Bai Jing asked. The girl raised her head timidly and saw Bai Jing's deep black eyes. She felt that all her thoughts were sucked in for a moment. She said blankly, Luma Olo Pavlichenko. The voices of men and women in the puberty period are similar, and Luma deliberately concealed it, so she was not discovered. But now, Luma, who has forgotten her mind, uses the original voice. Ryan quietly raised his head and lowered it again. Bai Jing smiled and patted Luma's head. Follow me in the future. It's not about copper smelting. With the gravity scanner in hand, he sees everyone as a skeleton. You have to believe it. The main thing is that when he looks around, the whole gang seems to be very convinced of him, but he doesn't know what they are thinking in secret. With Lumala, at least I have someone of my own in the future. Although she is young, I can teach her in the future. Maybe she will be the next Natasha. Rolling up the PTRD-41, Bai Jing said, I will use this to support you tonight. The elements of an elite sniper are steady hands, good eyesight, and good math. Bai Jing uses gravity to control the gun, so it won't shake at all. His eyesight is excellent, and he can see the hair on a person's face 3 kilometers away. His brain is now thinking very fast, and he can judge the impact of wind speed and humidity on the trajectory in an instant. So Bai Jing also has the potential to become a super sniper in the world. Hawkeye. Just a primitive man with a bow and arrow.